Oh hey y'all, how's it going? Fatty here, and with the release of Ark Survival Ascended, I decided to revisit my top 4 maps from Ark Survival Evolved and see how they changed, how they stack up, and let's not waste any more of your time and just jump into it. So this very first one is going to be located at 0.7, 96.8, and this is going to be one of the many Pearl Caves. I'll probably do a video before too long that shows all the different Pearl Caves and where they've kind of moved to and how they kind of stack up. But for this one, I really like the changes they did here. It's pretty minimalist. They didn't really change the entrance or anything like that. But the inside of the cave has a lot more light effects into it, a lot more greenery, and also the scale of a lot of things in this just feels a little bit different. This one just generally feels a little bit larger. I know you can make your characters quite small in ASA, so I don't know if it's just the scale of how small your characters is versus like the dinos, but just generally all the caves feel a little bit bigger. But this one's pretty nice. Again, not a huge amount has changed, but it still makes it a really Coming in at number 3, this one's going to be the Ice Cave located at 26.6, 29.3. Now this one has had a huge fall from grace. This was definitely one of the best maps kind of leading through the whole duration of Ark Survival Evolved. But now with ASA, they have made one pretty drastic change, which I am not really a huge fan of. So if you see this entrance of this cave really has not changed very much at all, leading up into where it used to be a crouch point. Now, a lot of people used to think that crouch spot was like really OP, and it kind of was, but it was still raidable, it was doable. But now you can almost basically walk a trike, even possibly a stego through, and with the nets not even being a thing right now, I haven't really played too much into the PvP aspects of it yet, so I don't know if you can grapple people off stegos or how far they went back with some of those dynamics. But right now, if stegos were working the same way at the end of Ark Survival Evolved as they are now, this is going to be an incredibly difficult base spot to defend from stegos and stuff like that. It's still going to be one of the better base spots. I'm not going to go and fly through the entire cave, because from this point, the little area down below I'll show you here in just a second is really the only part that's changed, and that part just feels a little bit more, the part that I'm going to feels a little more claustrophobic, a little bit just smaller in general, but the rest of the cave really has not been touched at all. But as you can see, this general area had a little bit more water, and it just seemed a little wider and a little bit taller, but now it's a little bit smaller. But you still have this great big area over here to do the breeding and stuff with. But like I said, after that, the cave hasn't really changed much at all. So I don't know. I have really mixed feelings about this. I don't like that big cave entrance. It does make it a little bit more on par with the other maps, but because this was such a good base spot, it's just not quite at that standard anymore. So that's why this one moved down to the 3 spot instead of the number 1. Coming in at number 2, this one's going to be located at 71.8, 57.3. Now, this was my favorite one on Ark Survival Evolved. I really enjoyed Pat Cave. It's a really nice one. It's just really fun to PvP in. This entrance is really nice. The huge tunnels in it. It's just kind of a fun one to have. A lot of people like to pull up. And again, with this one, they may have opened up some of the things, made them a little bit wider, but most of it hasn't really changed very much at all. This part right here, and in particular, is a lot wider, which I like, because this is one of the main like PvP wall areas. A lot of people put further walls back and different things. If you guys want a build guide, let me know, and I'll definitely throw one of those out there. But that's one of the main spots, is that tunnel and this first little entrance, and that's usually where you kind of want to hold people in PvP. So I'm glad that's opened up and a little bit nicer. But as you kind of go through the cave, it's really nice. They've just added a lot of lighting, a little bit more of like plant life and stuff, so it just feels a little bit more full in this one. But to be honest, everything else is exactly the same. Explorer notes are where they are. This area is pretty much exactly the same, so I'm just not going to walk through every single part of this cave, because it just looks a little bit different. But when it comes down to how it's going to perform in PvP situations and as a base spot, it is going to be a little bit better in my opinion than it was in Ark Survival Evolved, but very similar. So if you liked Pat Cave, I don't think in this one it's going to be, another ice cave situation where it's kind of drastically different, so you might want to question whether you're going to build there or not. If you're a person who felt like Pat Cave was a good spot to build in, it's still going to be a good spot to build in as well. That's why it's going to get my number 2 spot. And the number 1 spot is going to be really kind of crazy, and there's one huge change that really puts that one in the number 1 spot. Coming in at number 1, this one's going to be located at 7.9, 92.1. Now this is going to be Carno Cave, and now to my surprise, I honestly think this might have taken the number 1 spot for the base location. Now just hear me out. This tunnel, It's a little bit nicer. It's a little bit bigger, not big enough to fit too many dinos in, but you can probably fit a mantis in here pretty solid now, as well as it's just a really nice built tunnel. Now, one thing I've always said about Carno Cave is that if you could build in this underwater spot, it would make it such a better base location to be able to try to like choke hold people here, stop them. And to my surprise, I really wanted to try just to see what was going to happen. And you 110% can build down here. And I have no change on my settings. This was just loaded up. Besides having creative mode, that was the only change that was put on here. So you can now build in this underwater spot and have some walls down here, which is going to make it so much better. Now, the only big thing is right here is a little bit ugly. I'm not gonna lie. Putting this big crystal and this pillar right here in the middle does make this a bit more challenging to have a really solid wall. But I feel like with the mushrooms and different things and having a lot of different angles, you can really prevent people breaching up from a stego. So I really do think this is going to be an amazing base spot, even though the main wall area has changed up a bit. But building underwater and that starting tunnel now being just a slight bit better, in my opinion, is going to make this spot just the world amount better. So it's definitely one I would recommend building on and keeping your eyes on. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Like always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I am going to be posting quite a bit of polls kind of coming up to see what kind of different things people are wanting the tutorials from. Now, I know a lot of things are similar, but a lot of spawn locations have changed. So one thing I'm going to kind of put out there in my next poll is if people want to see more base spot locations, if people want to see like how the boss fights are now done, PvP tips, or just like I said, resource guides where to find things and the best, you know, large spots, maybe some more hidden spots for like silica pearls and stuff, so you're not constantly being contested with bigger tribes. Since there's only the island right now, everyone's going to be kind of rushing for those spots. So yeah, definitely let me know down in the comments below what you guys want to see, and I will catch you guys in the very next video. Peace.